Hello beautiful souls, I trust you're all doing super well today. It is exactly 1 month today since I shaved my head, which is somewhat fitting because today is also a new moon in Aries if you're into astrology stuff. It's quite poignant, I think, and it's also the solar eclipse today, so it's new beginnings all round. Oh, I'm a bit husky today. I did a lot of talking yesterday. I went to a really fun toy fair. Yeah, that's a video that is potentially out already, in which case, here's a little linky-loo. Go and check that out. So let's rewind and do a little recap, shall we? I went from this to this. Last month, I decided that it was time for me to shave my head. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I did make a video about it, so if you haven't seen that and you're interested in the thought process that led me to today, then go and check that out. So that video that I made when I had made the decision to shave my head, and then I chopped my dreads off and I shaved my head in that video. I've watched it back since, and you can see in my face just how scared I am and sad. I was feeling very emotional, I was feeling very sad. And it's really interesting for me now, a month later, to watch that back and just see how much I have changed in just this short period of time, which is why I want to do this sort of update video, because the changes are significant. My attitudes have changed towards myself, towards women, towards shaved heads. I've done a lot of growing over the last month as well, and not just my hair has grown so quickly. Like, I didn't expect it to grow this fast, so that's pretty cool. I think there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to cover in that previous video that I was so overcome with emotion that it was difficult for me to really explain it. I think now I'm in a better position to articulate it. So I did say this before, but I've always wanted to shave my head. I've just always wanted to know what it feels like to have a shaved head, to have the experience of being a woman with a shaved head, because it is a different experience to being a guy with a shaved head. It's very socially acceptable for men to have a shaved head and not so much for a woman to have a shaved head. There are lots of opinionated people out there and people who believe in stereotypes, and so I think even like all those years ago, like when I was a teenager and in my early 20s and so on, I wanted to know not what it was like to experience prejudice, obviously, but I wanted to know what it was like to experience just having a shaved head and what it's like to be me with a shaved head, if that makes any sense at all. What it's like to go outside in public with a shaved head. It's one of those things where you can really imagine what it's like, but until you've done it, you just don't really have any idea. And I realize that now, because I had a really firm idea as to what it was going to be like, just the whole experience. In a lot of ways I was right, and in a lot of ways I was wrong. And now I'm a month in, and my head is no longer shaved, right? I've got like enough hair that I can pull it. It's been a really interesting experience. I suspect that for every woman, her shaving her head is a very unique experience to her. Every woman is going to have her reasons for doing it, and she's going to have her own process for it as well. And I had my process, it turns out. That was unique to me because I had dreadlocks. The reasons in which I got those dreadlocks I did describe in the other video, so I'm not going to go through it, but if you're interested, go and watch that first and then come back to me. Having my dreadlocks was a very meaningful thing for me, and shaving them off was just as meaningful. I felt that I needed to just shed the things that I'd been through, which resulted in me getting the dreadlocks. Those things were very traumatic for me, and I suffer still PTSD as a result of the things that I went through. The dreadlocks, in a way, protected me from that stuff. It's hard to concentrate with your tail waving around, Robin. Okay, I'm gonna have to put you down on the floor because I'm trying to talk about serious stuff and your tail's like Not only did I have this physical mass of hair that made me feel protected because I could literally hide my face in them, but I felt like I was carrying my trauma around like this big badge of honor. It's a tough one really to describe. I think if any of you have PTSD or have suffered from PTSD symptoms, no matter what the trauma, then perhaps you will see what I'm getting at here. And PTSD is a very difficult thing to describe to someone who has not experienced it. We're not here to talk about PTSD today, but I think it's worth mentioning because for me, it has been an important part of what has become my head shaving journey, my hair journey, let's call it. It's been an important part of my hair journey, but also my journey, you know, just as a person. My dreadlocks gave me this sense of safety, and it wasn't just because I had something I could physically sort of hide in. It's something that I chose to experience as a result of the things that I'd been through. So it just felt like I was carrying it around like some kind of evidence of what I'd been through. The specific things that I did go through, there was nothing left. There was no evidence of it ever happening. And I think that was very difficult for me to cope with. With PTSD, there's a lot of, is this just me? Like, is this just in my head? At the time, I didn't realize that this was a thing that I was doing. I guess it was this subconscious psychological thing that was playing out with me. It manifested in me having dreadlocks. Once I realized that for years I had been carrying my trauma around in my hair, figuratively and literally, I am very mindful of energy and the energy that I am and create and am around. I think I needed to get so far through my recovery to understand that this is what my dreadlocks actually were to me. It's a really interesting animal, isn't it? Trauma and PTSD and all the things that goes with recovering from trauma. It's a journey, right? It's a process, and I first got my dreads because I had some really light, beautiful, fun reasons, and as time went on I realized that actually those reasons were still valid, but they were probably me just trying to make myself feel better at the time. But actually what was happening was all of this kind of subconscious stuff, and I think that was necessary for my healing journey. I suppose me shaving my head, I'm kind of in that same situation where there's twofold reasons. There's, I've had the dreadlocks for so long and I came to realize that they represented something that I am not anymore. They represented a time in my life that I have now left behind, and I am a different person now. I still suffer PTSD symptoms, but they no longer interfere with my everyday life. So I am like 99% recovered. Continuing to have dreadlocks when I'm now feeling like I'm a different person, they just needed to go. It was just time for them to go. Their time was up, you know, our time together had come to an end. It was bittersweet cutting them off because I found so much safety in my dreads. I absolutely loved my dreadlocks. Aside from all of those dark, gloomy reasons, I loved my dreadlocks. They were beautiful, and they took, 5 years to nurture into these beautiful, neat little dreadlocks, and I loved maintaining them and taking care of them, and I loved the process of looking after them. I think the dreadlocks are just really beautiful. I will probably have dreads again in the future when my hair is like super long. That right there is stuff that I could not articulate in the previous video, and maybe there's some of you that can relate. Yeah, so you could see in my previous video the relief. It just washed over me and you could see it in my face when I cut my dreads off and then I finished shaving my head. I think whilst I was actually shaving it, I was just concentrating on what I was doing. But when I had finished, I took it in. You know, I looked at myself in the mirror and I just took it in. And the magnitude of what I'd just done, the amount of courage that I had mustered to do what I had just done, just hit me. And you could see this relief just wash over my face. I have rewatched that clip several times, and each time it makes me cry happy tears for myself. It just felt so liberating. I just felt so free for the first time in a very long time. My hair was this literal weight on my head and also a metaphorical weight on my head, and it felt really good to just shed it all in such a drastic way. It felt so good. At no point over this past month have I regretted my decision. But I think that is just further testament to that I made the right decision, you know, for me. And I did it at the right time and I did it in the right way. So the main things that I noticed immediately, like the differences, I've always had long hair. I've never had hair shorter than like shoulder length. So the first week was a week of firsts. The first time having a shower with a shaved head. Bliss. Absolute bliss. I must have spent 30 minutes plus in the shower with just the water just on my bald head, running down my face. It was incredible just to get in the shower and go like that. Because you can't do that with long hair. You can't do that with dreadlocks, like at all. I think I kind of went from one extreme to the other, because when I had my dreadlocks, I would bundle my dreads up on top of my head and then have a shower without getting my head wet, because you don't wash your dreadlocks every day. You need natural oils to be in your dreads. So I would shower every day and then I would wash my hair maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. That was a process in itself, and I used to not wash them in the shower because they get very, very heavy. So what I would do was I would put my head over the side of the bath and then wash my dreads like with a shower head like this. Washing my hair, washing my body were two separate activities to me for like 5 years. Prior to that, when I had like sort of regular hair, I would do the same thing really, because my hair was dyed. I've been dyeing my hair since I was in my early 20s, and you can't put hot water on dyed hair. Well, you can, but if you do, the colour washes out faster. That first shower of having a shaved head was probably the first time in years that I got in the shower and let the water run off of my head, and it felt so good. I can't even begin to describe how good it felt. So good. I was just like laughing the whole time that I was in the shower. I probably sounded like an absolute maniac. I was just laughing. I was just like, oh my god, this is so amazing. I've been so missing out on this. The first night going to bed with a shaved head was very, very significant for me as well, because sleeping with dreadlocks, especially when they're very long, is another case of you kind of bundle them up on top of your head and then you lay down. I had this very specific motion that I would do when I got into bed. So I would like go to lay down and then I would get my hand like that and I would sweep my dreadlocks up away from the back of my neck. So now they're like on top of my hand, and then I would lay down and then I would like let them flop like this on top of my, like on the top of my pillow. Multiple times throughout the night, it would be this. Sweep them out of the way. Because if you don't and you're led on one, it's not only a bit scratchy feeling, but also you can't move your head because you've got hold of one of the dreads like under your shoulder or something, under your body weight. So it would be this every time. I got into bed that first night and I went like that and I was like, oh right, yeah, because it was habit. I was like, oh yeah, right, yeah, of course. And I purposefully like slammed my head down on a pillow just because I could, and there's just nothing there. Oh, it was just felt so free. You know, finally I could just get into bed, just put my head down on the pillow. There was no maneuvering hair out of the way or trying to get comfortable. It's just put your head down and that's it. Job done. Go to sleep. The first time going outside, immediately when I shaved my head, I felt drafty just here. For some reason, not the rest of my head at all. It was just the nape right here that just felt constantly cold. I think I've got used to it now, plus my hair has grown a little bit now. So I found myself in that first week. I mean, I basically live in hoodies anyway when I'm at home, but I was like constantly had the hood up because it was the only thing that kind of stopped the draft. And of course, having long hair, this part of your head is always covered. Even if you've got your hair up into a ponytail, that part, you've still got like a cushion of hair pulled up from the bottom of your neck. It's still covering that bit. So there was just nothing covering it at all. That was a very significant thing that I noticed immediately. So going outside for the first time was really odd. Feeling the wind blowing across my bald head or even just a breeze, or just the air, just the outside air. It didn't even have to be windy or breezy. Just the air touching my naked head was really bizarre and did take a bit of getting used to. But what was nice was that I had a fringe, or bangs as some people call it, and I was constantly doing that, like flicking it out of my eyes or doing that motion to push it away from my eyes. Not having anything in my face is really nice. Going outside, even the slightest breeze will move your hair, and I had no hair, so the breeze was just felt really refreshing against my face and my head. Then there was the first time I went outside with a shaved head whilst it was raining, and feeling rain on the top of your head, actually feeling it on your scalp is really amazing. Like I'm very much a child of nature. Like I love nature. I love taking my shoes and socks off and getting grounded and walking, barefoot on the ground, in the grass, through the woods, touching trees, like connecting with nature. So feeling rain on my scalp when I'd never really felt it before just felt like another way I could connect with nature and the earth, and was a really incredible experience. Really cold though, and it runs down the back of your neck, which was really unpleasant. So I let it happen a bit, and I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. And then it started to run down the back of my neck, and I was like, nope. And then my hood went up. Still was a very interesting experience. So I think for that first week, it was very much experiencing physical stuff to do with my shaved head. Then there was the social aspect. I found that quite difficult to begin with because I was very self-conscious. I was feeling very confident in my decision, but I was not feeling confident in showing people what I'd done. I didn't even have to be like, oh, hey, look. I would just show up and people would see, right? It's not subtle in the slightest. So my first time around my colleagues was very weird. I noticed that there are two reactions from people. There are reactions where people are like, oh my God, look, you've got no hair. Oh wow, that's so cool. Because they're nice people. Oh, that's so cool. Wow, look what you've done. Oh, it looks so great. And then the other reaction is people ignoring it and pretending that they haven't seen it. Both reactions are very unsettling. So I know that the way that someone behaves is a reflection on them, and it's not a reflection on me. How I behave is a reflection on me. It's not a reflection on other people. So how I treat people has got nothing to do with them. It's got everything to do with me. I noticed immediately how people react to me suddenly not having any hair when they had no prior warning. I only told 2 people that I was going to shave my head prior to me doing it. I didn't tell anyone else. And that's not because I was going for the shock factor. It was just simply none of their business. I've learned a lot about the people around me by how they've reacted to me having a shaved head. The people who have said nothing and pretended like they haven't noticed are people who are actually really insecure and they don't know how to react. And I just find that really interesting. However, people who are like, well, wow, oh, look what you've done, or oh, your hair, like it's gone, or like just mentioning it and being like, oh, like an exclamation, whether they compliment me afterwards or not, just they're like, oh wow, your your hair or lack thereof. Those people are confident enough to say something about it. There's been a real divide in the people in my life, the people who have not reacted and the people who have reacted, and it's really separated the wheat from the chaff. Interestingly enough, the people who had no reaction at all are people who I'm quite happy to not have in my life, honestly. It's like they had a reaction that was something to do with themselves and had nothing to do with me when they saw that I had no hair, and then they just like folded in on themselves. Then there's the people who did react or do react. It's interesting to see what their ideals and perspectives are on women with shaved heads, because I've had a whole array of reactions. There's been people who have said that I look like a they them, as how it was put to me. That again, you know, shows me that those people associate a woman with a shaved head as a woman who's basically trying not to be a woman, someone who's, you know, non-binary and all that stuff. That's not me. I am a divine feminine absolutely through and through. I am female presenting and I am a woman. I am a 100% woman. I found it interesting when a number of people were like, oh, are you now a they them? And I'm like, definitely not. I am actually taking this head shaving as a way for me to discover other ways of displaying my femininity, because I mean, especially right now where my hair has just grown out naturally, I look like I have a very masculine buzz cut. I probably, you know, in a way technically look less feminine than I would like to, but this is sort of the point. For me, I am rediscovering my femininity. When you experience trauma and you're experiencing symptoms of trauma such as PTSD like I have, all sexuality and as a woman, all femininity goes out the window, because all it does is make you feel more vulnerable and more frightened and less able to protect yourself. So you go into like masculine lockdown mode. My femininity has suffered because of that over the years. Me shaving my head, it's actually helping me. You might feel like perhaps it's counterproductive, because to be feminine is to have long hair, right? That's like the stereotype. But what I'm actually finding is that I'm not relying on having long hair to present my femininity to the outside world, and even to myself, because when I look at myself in the mirror, having long hair makes you feel, you know, all like I just did that, right? It just makes you feel all like feminine and stuff, you know? And not having it can make you feel a bit more masculine. As each day goes by, I'm finding more and more that I feel and I think that I look more feminine for having no hair, because I'm displaying my femininity through other means. Like my body language has changed a bit. I've noticed there's mannerisms that I used to have that I'm doing less, that could arguably be more masculine. Something else that I've noticed is that when I go to my wardrobe, I'm choosing more feminine clothing than I did before. And I don't know if that's because maybe I'm trying to sort of compensate, you know, subconsciously. Perhaps that's it. But regardless, the end result is the same. And I like that, because I like wearing dresses and I like wearing skirts, and I like wearing clothes that make me feel sexy and attractive and feminine. It's been a very interesting month. Oh, and here's the other thing. I've been having a lot of fun wearing wigs as well. I currently have 2 wigs, so there's 2 more that's going to arrive today. It's really fun wearing different wigs. I can just change up my hairstyle and my look whenever I want, and not have to be concerned about having to tuck in my hair under the wig and it's going to fall out, and, you know, I don't have to worry about that. I can change the colour, the length, the style anytime I want to, and it doesn't have to be for a whole day. It could just be for an hour if I want. If I pop out for the afternoon to go somewhere fun, I can wear a wig. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, and I'm having so much fun doing that. I'm able to be more creative because I have less hair, which is kind of cool. So overall, I feel more confident because I don't have anything to hide. Like this is me. Immediately, as soon as someone looks at me, you see me. You're not seeing my hair. Well, maybe if I'm wearing a wig, but let's say I'm not wearing a wig. You just see me immediately. I am definitely more confident now. Now I just walk into a room and I'm like, hey everyone, hey folks, yeah, this is me. I don't feel self-conscious. I did in the first week or two, and now I really don't. That's because of the shaved head. Because of that, I am going to keep my shaved head for a little bit longer. I am going to grow my hair out, but I feel like there's still more for me to learn from having a shaved head. So I'm going to shave my head right now. I'm gonna keep it shaved for a bit. I don't know for how long. This is not a permanent thing, but I'm going to continue shaving my head until I feel like I've outgrown it and excuse the pun, I've learned all that there is for me to learn from the experience of being a woman with a shaved head. So thank you for sticking with me throughout this lengthy update. Have you shaved your head? I'd love to hear about your experience. Perhaps just leave a little comment down below. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. Thank you so much for your support. It makes a huge difference to me, to my life, to the channel, so thank you so much. If you fancy getting your hands on some exclusive content, videos, vlogs, photos, I don't really use public social media. Patreon pretty much is my social media feed, so if you're interested in following my life, go and check out Patreon, check out the YouTube members button below and see if there's anything there that takes your fancy. So as always, thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate your beautiful faces. Remember that you are important and you are loved, and I will see you in the next one.